I'm going to do it my way. And I want to test everything. Any little idea I had, I tried to make it happen. Like, if you don't know about all this big metaphysical stuff, just start with the physical. Like, do you like the shirt you're wearing or not? We learn geometry, algebra, we learn physics, we learn all this different stuff in school, but like no one ever really teaches you how to be you. If perspective is poison, then understanding is the cure. The most important thing I believe that a young person can do, and really any person can do, is...
Welcome to another episode of Disrupt the Podcast with Andres Tapia
and Eloisa Domingo,
where we challenge conventional wisdom and look at the new ways that are shaping our future.
And we've got our first in-studio guest, and we'll be talking about the disruption in health and fitness.
So welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, both of you. And congrats on the show.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. Thank you.
We're excited. But you happen to be a disruptor, but happen to be a friend of mine, also my boxing coach. So I've had to learn how to stay out of your way a little bit.
I'm not going to hit you ever,
I know, he
promise.
never hits me, but when he shows me the moves and what it takes, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not in a boxing ring match with him because I would be destroyed. But he's teaching me how to destroy other people in a nice, good way.
That's awesome.
That's right. Right. Kill them with kindness, right?
Kill them with
not
kindness.
Left and right.
Yeah, exactly. We are interested in the field that you're in, health and fitness. But, everybody's doing health and fitness in some way or another, but we're interested in the ways in which you're disrupting it. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, I think in order to do that effectively, let me tell you a little bit about my background so I can piece it together. We live in the same city, and that's the city that I was born in, Highland Park, Illinois. And growing up in Highland Park, Illinois was an amazing experience for me. Part of that reason was that we were one of the first Black Cuban families in that town. And my Uncle Albert was one of the first Black entrepreneurs in the Central Business District.
That's awesome.
And so he had a gym. I was a little kid in there, trying to touch things I wasn't supposed to touch. Yeah. And I knew at that moment, growing up in his gym and watching the respect that he earned from the people in the community, that one day I wanted to do the same thing.
Wow.
I wanted to be able to have a gym in my own hometown and be that same person that was able to get respect from his peers. But at the same time, I knew that I wanted to be different than his gym. His gym was dirtier than I would want it to be. It was loaded with a bunch of steroided bodybuilders and power lifters, punching holes in walls after a set. And I thought, yeah, this is cool. It's really toxic, tons of testosterone. But I think if I ever do a gym, I want to do a gym that feels more like me. And at that point in my life, I knew that I had just as much fun sitting and doodling and writing poetry and songs than I did playing sports and lifting weights. And so I thought, how awesome would it be if I had this gym, but instead of it being loaded with guys punching holes in walls, there was beauty on the walls.
Wow.
And that is what really motivated me to want to, I guess, disrupt what a gym needed to look like or feel like.
Yeah. Well, so hold on a second. So Uncle Albert. And so I can actually picture this gym, right? But that's kind of the beauty of the gym, right? I mean, so full transparency, I haven't been to your gym, and I'm hoping that you invite me there at some point.
You're going to be coming for sure.
Good.
Now that I've seen the biceps.
That's
you have no choice now.
That's right. And so, but I think that there's also some draw to that, like, the grit and the dirt and, getting in there and getting, dirty. But now you're bringing in, and again, you have to describe for me this gym because I haven't been there, So you've got there's just art around, or you've got...
Well, yeah. So let's unpack that a little bit because that is actually how it is that I'm disrupting. The fitness industry is riddled with probably more stereotypes and just expectations that people have of either the industry or a trainer than maybe anything else. People are shocked when they find out that I eat pizza. You probably don't even eat pizza. Yes, I do.
Carbs.
Carbs. You probably don't do this. Yes, I do. So there's so many ideas that people have of what it is to be a trainer or have a gym. And a lot of times we think of a gym as gritty and this and that.
I do.
And sometimes even masculine because people think that this gym is supposed to be this place where you're lifting and dropping and throwing and all this stuff. So
it's
smelling the sweat.
and smelling and
noises,
sweat and all that stuff.
Yep.
So it's loaded with these stereotypes. And I think that being a nonconformist automatically kind of makes you a disruptor. And so
Agreed.
I don't conform to that. My gym is not filthy. It's hardcore. You can still train. I train pro athletes in there and regular people, but it's got the largest, actual original piece of artwork in the city of Highland Park, this massive mural done by an artist.
Wow.
It's a functioning art gallery. There's art on the walls done by emerging artists and established artists.
Wow.
The place has been designed to be aesthetic. It's clutter-free. There was a system that I used for that. So when you come in there, it feels different. I'm a collector of vintage and antique artifacts, and so you'll find some of those things in there. And all of those things that you see and feel represent one major thing. It represents who I am, how I see the world. And in that way, I refuse to conform and be something that I'm not. I'm going to be exactly who I am, unapologetically, and you either like that aesthetic or you don't. And if you don't, then you can go to the gym across the street.
Yeah, and actually, you live your philosophy as the way you described it, but you also want to have it elevated. So you had professional artists, professional interior designers, to really bring to life this philosophy.
Absolutely. I think people should stay in their lane. And so I tried to find the best people that I could to help me bring my vision to life. And so that meant using pros, absolutely. And the result, I think, is in the pudding.
Tell us about the muralist, though, from the biggest piece of art in Highland Park. Who is he, and what was the story there?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. I met him at a Glenview kind of like street fest. And he had a little tent set up, and he was selling artwork with two other artists that he knew. And so I stumbled upon him. I bought a bunch of art from him there, and I loved it. And at that point, I was going to be building out my gym. So I'm like, you know what? I've got this massive wall. I know I want to commit to putting a mural there. Would you do it? And he's like, I've never done a mural large scale like that, but I'd love to do it. So we started communicating, brought him over, saw it. And for me, I believed in him. I believe in art. I'm passionate about it, but it was such an exercise of faith and trust because this wall is massive.
Wow.
And if something goes wrong, it would totally change the feel of this huge investment that I'm making in this gym. Yeah. But I trusted him, and he'd never done it before. So I said, here's a color palette, make it bold, do what you got to do.
No, so hold on, wait, whoa. You didn't design that? You didn't see the gamma beta
No, he showed me nothing.
Go?
I said, these are the colors. Make it bold, have fun. And the best part about it is that Jimmy, and he's a genius, he did the whole thing in the dark because at this point when he painted, we didn't have our lights installed. And we had to actually put paper all over the window so no one could see. So he literally had a little light, a traveling little light, and he painted in the dark. And he didn't even really knew what it looked like until finally he was done. And then we got lights in, and then we flicked the lights on, and we all stood back. We're like, oh my God. That's amazing. So we didn't even really know.
This makes me anxious, that you didn't know. Did you have a contingent? What would have happened if you flicked on the lights and you were like, it was horrible. I can't believe I paid you for this.
No, we'll just have to paint over it. That was really the thing. If it was really that bad, I was like, we'll have to get some paint over the whole thing and start over.
But that actually speaks to, as we think about our viewers here, the reaction you had, a lot of people would have, right?
Yeah.
But disruption does require risk-taking. And letting go of control, right? And to just kind of let's see what happens. Right. But what are some principles here because let's see what happens. What could happen could be disaster.
100%.
So how do we justify the risk-benefit analysis of disrupting and the risk that goes with it, and yet the disaster that could potentially happen on the other end?
Yeah, sometimes something doesn't feel. Yes, you're 100% right. There was risk, and it was clear what that risk was, but it didn't feel as bad because I knew that this was in line with my passions. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You're willing to kind of the risk doesn't feel as risky because at least you're staying in your vein. Yeah. This is art. I believe in artists. I chose this artist. I bought from him before. I need to trust him. Yeah. That's why there was something about his style that I liked. And by the way, after he did that for me, he designed custom hats for me. Each one's one of one, custom shirts, custom sweatshirts. And I've continued to buy more artwork from him and support him. So I had to just trust in myself and in my passion and my love and trust in him. And with that trust, the risk didn't feel as dangerous, even though it really was.
And I know something just based on the stories that you told, but you took another risk with him. It wasn't just a risk with him as an artist.
Yeah, so Jimmy was a recovering, he had already recovered, but he used to be a drug addict.
Oh.
And so, really the biggest risk that he took was on himself. In order to help in his path of recovery, he got into artwork, and that was something he used to kind of channel his energy throughout his recovery.
That's amazing.
And so to me, I looked at that as just another just compelling piece of the story.
Yeah.
As opposed to a risk. You actually saw it as an asset.
Absolutely. To me, that was an asset. Absolutely, because it's all about the story. It's all about the journey. Like, this person's going to put something into this mural and into this paint that just some other person that's just like a muralist. And someone was like, I can't believe it, that he's never done it. It's his first time. I go, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I want someone that it's their first time doing it.
Yeah.
Give them the chance.
So I'm going to go back a little bit because you know him. You and Chris know. I don't know you. And what you've done so far, you've already told. So you went from a kid in Uncle Albert's gym to now this, but I need you to fill in a gap for me.
There's a lot.
Like, there's a lot. So who are you? I mean, you're a boxer? You're like, how did you get from kid to gym? Like, what is the fill in the blank here for us?
Sure. So grew up in Highland Park, Illinois.
Okay.
My family came there straight to Highland Park from Cuba in 1967. Growing up in Highland Park was lovely. I loved it. But at the same time, there was some hardship. I was bullied. I grew up with a single mom. That was rough. But had a lot of wonderful moments in Highland Park. By the time I graduated from Highland Park High School in 1997, I was a football player, I was a boxer, a wrestler, all those things. And I was president of the poetry club.
That's cool.
I love that, right?
I
Boxing
know.
and poetry
And
club, right? Yeah.
Everyone thought I was trying to do it to get girls.
But you did, though.
Yeah, but I didn't need the poetry club for that. I really was doing it because I love poetry and I love artwork. But my freshman year in college, I went to play football at Wisconsin Whitewater, and I got really depressed, and I had a suicide attempt. Trying to take my life at 18, 19 years old changed my life. It changed the trajectory of everything for me. When I woke up in the hospital, and all my best friends were there bedside, from Bradley, IU, Madison, I opened my eyes and I saw them all standing around, and I thought, like, this is heaven? Like, what, like, why are you all here, and what's going on?
Right.
And they're all crying, and they're like, we can't believe you did this to yourself.
Oh my gosh.
And as I sat there and I looked in their eyes, I thought to myself, God, like, what was I doing? And really the biggest thing for me was I felt like I didn't have control. I felt like I didn't have control over who I was, what I was doing. And it was that lack of control that made me feel like I needed to do something to take complete control.
Wow.
And so that helped me then realize, you know what? Who am I? I figured that out. How do I want to express that? I'm going to do it my way. And I'm going to be as authentic as I possibly can. I'm going to do, whether it's painting my nails, wearing all black, or even showing up to a meeting with councilman and the mayor with a backwards baseball cap on, I'm going to do it my way, because I already felt like I wasn't able to be myself, and that took me to almost losing my life. So I'd rather be myself and stay alive and have people judge me than conform to what it is that you want me to do and expire.
Wow.
That's the choice, right?
That's the choice.
You chose that at 18, 19?
Yeah. And from that moment on, there were mistakes, right? Like, I went into working in the nightclub industry, and like I really pushed and did a lot of things I probably shouldn't have done, but like I wanted to test and push and test and push because I felt like it was something that was in me. So I did it. I had a lot of crazy experiences. And then when I was done with that, I started my world in entrepreneurship. I signed my first commercial lease at 23 years old. I published 2 children's stories at 28 years old. Started my family, opened another gym, failed things, had my podcasts, created products. I have patents. I've done so many different things. Was a columnist for the paper. I have any little idea I had. The point is, I tried to make it happen. Not so that it would make money, so that it could be successful. Everyone's like, if you focus on one thing, it would just be successful and you'd be really... I go, that's not the point. I am focusing on one thing, being myself.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's right.
That is my product. Yeah. I'm focusing on one thing, being me, and I want to test everything and let it be.
So what would you say, from a disruption perspective, then, what's the connection between what you just said, where you landed about focusing on, I want to be myself, and being able to be a disruptor that really can make a difference?
Honestly, to me, the biggest thing is just the nonconformity. It just happens to be that since my soul is kind of this artistic soul, and if you think about it, like a lot of artists are going against the grain in some way. That's kind of why they stand out, or you'll look at what they're doing and turn your head and be like, oh. And so that was always in my nature, to be an artist. I am an artist and a creative that fell in love with fitness and entrepreneurship. And so with that comes lots of feelings and ideas and thoughts and the desire to express. And many times those expressions are not what people are comfortable with. And so I am a nonconformist and a disruptor by nature. And so now what I do is I simply embrace that, I cultivate it, and I always talk to people about like own your personal brand, know what that is. And
absolutely.
now it is part of my personal brand. Not to disrupt or be a nonconformist to like poke at people, but to be so authentically myself and own it at is such a deep level that if it makes you super uncomfortable, I'm doing you a favor.
And I want to come back to then this connection between art and fitness.
That I was going to say.
Yeah. So what happens to you and your clients as they walk into this really disrupted, beautiful space?
Well, and the other thing too, and can I add to that?
Yeah.
The other thing too, Chris, I would love to understand your definition of fitness, because I work out a lot, Pilates, bar work, weightlifting. So, for me, I'm like, gosh, I wonder, like, am I not thinking of fitness the right way? Like, so I'd love to hear, like, what is your definition of fitness?
Yeah, I mean, we can define it so many different ways, but the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of fitness is confrontation. That's how I think about it. Wow. Like, that's the first thing that comes to my mind because I think that the thing that attracted me to exercise was that there was always this moment of confrontation that happened when I started doing that exercise. You start doing the curls, and all of a sudden you get this burn. Yeah. And then that burn builds up, and now it hurts, and now you want to stop.
Yeah, for sure.
But that moment when you want to stop is the moment where the good stuff is going to happen.
I totally agree.
And that is the moment of confrontation. So to me, whether that's you're doing a bar class and they always say when you start to shake, that's how you know things are changing.
They say that all the time.
Right?
They say that all the time.
That's the moment of confrontation. Yeah. So when I think of fitness, whether it's hitting the wall on the run or whatever it is that you do, there's a moment of confrontation where it's calling you out. Your body's doing what it's doing, but it's calling you out. It's trying to see, where are you at? Are you going to have the ability to override the system and give me 2 more or not? And guess what? Maybe today you won't, and that's fine too. Yeah. But are you at least aware of that moment in time? And so to me, that is that fitness, the exercise of the mind, because that's really what it's about. Yeah. It's really not about your body. Yeah. It's about exercising your mind to be comfortable enough to sit in that moment of confrontation and make a conscious decision.
To push.
To push?
Yeah.
Or not to push? That is the question.
But, so full transparency is that, so you came in here and you said, I pushed myself a couple days ago and I strained something.
Yeah, I did.
And so it sounds to me like, so you were facing a moment of confrontation.
Correct.
You made a choice.
Yes.
And
I'm paying the consequences.
And you're paying the
for
consequences.
I made a choice. It's simply a choice. I chose to push and then push and then push again. And I was confronted. And unfortunately, that can be my nature. And sometimes you get a little boo-boo from it. Yeah. That's all right.
But take it now to the more emotional and metaphysical level, like, okay, confrontation of your body, right? The resistance, and that's where the growth happens. But what happens to our spirits and our mindsets when we face a confrontation and, push through it? Often for benefit. Yeah. Other times we push through it too hard and we pay the cost. But what happens to our psyches when we have this mindset of lifestyle in this way?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It builds power. That's where your power comes from, right? Like when we talk about how, when I was facing depression and suicidal ideation, there was a feeling of like I had a lack of control, right? That moment of confrontation that you get every single time you go to the gym and you're doing whatever it is that you do is that opportunity for you to fortify, for you to know that you are in control, that you can make a decision, whether to push or not to push. You choose. And so that is that training, that is that practice that you get, right? And like if life is practice and it's all about building habits and the quality of your life is determined by the sum and nature of those habits, then every single time you go to the gym, every single set you do is you practicing and taking ownership over your agency, your ability to choose.
You know what I think is interesting though. So like I'm thinking about this. This conversation about confrontation. The other thing too, though, is that I think about this word pain. Before we kind of turned on the cameras, you and I were comparing tattoos, and before we turned on the cameras, you said it's pain and I love it.
Yeah.
And if I can stretch it a little bit, right? So you also talked about I'm an entrepreneur myself. Andres is an entrepreneur. We have gone through a lot of pain. This is not the first time I've been an entrepreneur. There has been money that you've shed. There's, like, oh my gosh, am I going to have this? Whatever. You're making choices, but you're going through pain. So I'm also almost seeing that as like a thread for you and that you're okay with that. For me, honestly, I think that's a huge disruption. I think a lot of people walk away from pain and they're like, and in that moment of confrontation, so in my bar classes, when I shake, like you said, I'm like, I'm out. And that's not all the time, but I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm going to fall on my face if I'm not out. But you're right, Chris. Like in those moments when I choose the pain, the next day I'm like, oh my God, I feel better. I look better.
Yeah.
But that pain part is really interesting to me because most people go away from it.
They do go away. And I think that it provides an opportunity, right? Like pain is going to hold space for you in the clearest possible way. And I think that there's so much beauty in our ability to hold space, either for ourselves or for other people when connecting. And so pain is just a wizard at holding space. It's going to lock you in that moment right there and give you an opportunity. Are you staying with it or are you leaving? And so for me, I look at those opportunities as a moment for radical transformation, right? Like if I stick with that and go with that, or simply just whatever it is that I chose, that ability to choose in that moment, which oftentimes I will choose to go with the pain and kind of keep pushing into that, gives me an opportunity to grow and in such an honest way that other things just don't give me. And in the world of tattooing, I actually get to leave with a physical body that's completely different than what I walked in.
I agree.
Yeah, and also staying with the fitness, especially on the boxing side, it's not only pushing through the pain and the growth that happens, right, physically and even mindset, but I was actually at a cocktail party last night, and I was talking to a woman who actually likes doing different kinds of things she never would have done, and one of the things was boxing, right? And she said, "Look, I was taught by my grandma and my mom to just be a girl, right, and to just sit and cross my legs and just put my hands on my lap." And then I met a boxing coach, and I said, "I want to do that." And then it became a lifestyle thing for her. But she talked about how empowering it was, right, to go from the cross leg, hands on the lap kind of thing to really be in a boxing stance, and then how empowering that was. And then she got into actually bouts, fights, competitively. Wow. And she goes, and the first time I knocked another girl down, oh my God, 10 seconds in, it changed my life because I felt I could do anything.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Right.
100%.
And she disrupted herself by doing something she never would have done, but she sees the moment of meeting this interesting boxer coach and say, I'm going to do something I've never done before. Yeah. Oh. Which is another good definition of fitness, right?
For sure. Taking yourself to uncharted territory, pushing yourself. And that's the thing. Like, you don't know. If you know you're going to do it or you know how it's going to turn out, then where's the fun in that? Yeah. Right? Yeah. And again, paralleling that to like painting. Like, I don't have one particular style. I don't know what's going to happen the second I confront that canvas. If I knew exactly what I was going to produce.
Confront the canvas. Yeah. That's interesting. The tension is there again, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Like if I knew what I was going to produce every time, it wouldn't be exciting for me.
Because I understand as well that you said, I didn't know, so you had 2 books that you published earlier.
Yeah, children's stories, yeah.
Which are what?
One of them is Billy Blue and the Big Belly. So that's a wonderful story about a little boy who gets hungry. And so he meets these different characters on his way home from school. And he's like, oh, I'm so hungry. And so one of them gives him candy and then he eats the candy and he's still hungry and his belly gets bigger. And then his belly is actually this figure behind him walking around that starts out small. And as he eats all these things, he keeps getting huge and huge and huge. And soon he's bigger than a tree. And then he meets the firefighter and the firefighter says, dude, you need healthy food. Then you'll feel satiated and your belly won't be so pissed off and get so huge or whatever it is. And so it's fun. So that was a great story. And then the other one is Riggets and Dooley Fashion Fruit, which is all about like pushing, societal norms and like being creative. And I did all the illustrations for that one myself.
Did
So that
you
was really
really?
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, since you're going to sort of the children's and youth space, you do a lot of motivational speaking and
Yes.
coaching
Yes.
with young people.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started motivational speaking, I think in 2009 or something like that. And it started out with me doing a lunch and learn about this like method of eating that I had developed. So I did a corporate lunch and learn, and I knew that I wasn't afraid to be in front of people and talk. But like this was just like the gateway moment for me. I was like, they paid me a lot of money to do this. And then this whole world of bullying was really hitting the media and getting at that time. And I was bullied and had my story that a lot of my clients knew. And someone was like, you need to come talk to my school. She was like running the PTO or whatever. So I did a school talk about that, and like that turned into, someone saw it and that turned into something else and something else. And so I've been a professional motivational speaker throughout the Midwest for the past, 15 years. I've done all types of different schools, but I've also done corporate. And again, very authentic. I get up there, I'm myself. And I think that certainly when I get up in front of kids, but even when I get up in front of executives, I don't change what you see right now. I bring this to the table every single time. And that makes people go, how come he's not wearing a sport coat? Or what's up with that hat?
Yeah.
What's up with the nails?
Yeah.
What's that pin on his shoes? Like they're so confused, Yeah. And in
I can
that,
see that.
And in that moment, it's this attention grabber, and then it's like I drop the hammer of passion and intensity, and they.
And what are some of the messages?
Yeah.
Some of the themes in what you do.
Oh gosh, I mean, so many different things. You'll talk about everything from respecting each other's differences to how to cultivate your passion to how to master the art of doing stupid stuff. Which is
I like that one.
I like that one. I was going to say.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, really, that's just like, I just tell people, like, there's so many things that come to my mind that I will do, like I told you, because I feel compelled to do it, even if the plan doesn't really make sense. If you feel compelled to do it and passion is driving you to do it, just do it. But there's an art form to that, and you need to make sure it aligns with your personal brand, and it's something that serves you as well as fulfills you. And there's a difference between the two. Fulfilling you is something that makes you feel like you, right? And then serving you is something that helps you move forward on your journey.
Wow.
So fulfilling. So if I were here right now in like khaki pants, that wouldn't make me feel like me, right? So there are things that make me feel like me. Everything about you, what you see here, is something that, and it's not just visual. I'm just giving visuals, an example. But everything makes me feel like me, comfortable in my own skin. And if it serves me, it should be moving me forward in my journey in some capacity.
Well, and I think some of the secret for being a disruptor lies in that authenticity.
I agree.
When you go back to the story about the risk that you took with your gym, with the art gallery and the artists, it was a huge risk, but it was in alignment with who you are, what you want to see happen, and that gave you the wherewithal to say, yes, I will take this risk because it's in alignment. But to take a risk when it's out of alignment with who we are, I think that's where disruption then can really go off the rails.
Yeah, going back to what we were saying earlier, because you're making a great point. That's when things actually get risky, right? If it's totally out of alignment, then you really feel a nerve, like you're not right. So for me to take these risks, but if it's, as long as it's on brand for me, even if it's super, super risky, I feel like it's what I'm supposed to be doing. And even if it blows up in my face, then I needed to take that hit.
So, but
and that's where the growth happens.
Yeah.
And that's where the growth happens
That's the
anyway.
pain, right?
Yeah.
That's the pain.
The confrontation.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
So
good confrontation.
That's right. So either way, I still net
win.
positive. It's still a win for me.
I think though it is interesting to listen to you and say you're using this word feel, almost like it's intrinsic, it's intuitive to you. I could imagine that a lot of people out there, for me, years ago, I would have been like, so I'm sorry, what does that feel like? How do I know? How do I know I'm supposed to do this? Because I think a lot of people don't trust their instinct and don't know that. So how do you know that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've spent a lot of time in my life, and I tell young people this all the time. The most important thing I believe that a young person can do, and really any person can do, is cultivate a healthy curiosity. Just stay curious. And I've always been a really curious kid. And so part of that curiosity for me is to be curious about myself, not in a narcissistic way, but to ask myself questions. When I look at something like, do I like that or do I not like that? Does that feel good? Do I like the color of this paint? I really, really love it. Like I always analyze and think back to, do I like it? Does it fit? Does it not fit? Yeah. And then when it comes to trying to like piece together a personal brand for you, start with the low-hanging fruit, right? Like for me, low-hanging fruit is how we present our physical body in space and time, right? Like if you don't know about all this big metaphysical stuff, just start with the physical. Like, do you like the shirt you're wearing or not? Yeah. You know, like for me, I remember like, you know, going to church when I was a kid and my mom forcing me to wear clothes I didn't like. I was not comfortable. I didn't like anything about it. So if you know you don't like it, well, then what do you like? What will you be comfortable in? Well, I really want to wear this and do this. So why don't you just do it? Well, I can't because it's not going to be, well, who cares? Do it anyway. Just do it. Take that risk. So that's where I started, was like with stuff like that. And then like I just kind of kept piecing it together. And eventually you are more that than you are what you were. Yeah. And from that point, once you have identified more things that feel good, that fit you, the world starts to react to you differently.
It's so interesting because I don't think that we're taught that way. You know, I mean, the juxtaposition of being curious about yourself and believing that you have the answer, as opposed to, well, I don't really want to wear that because something else outside of me is going to say that's not nice on you, Eloisa, or like that doesn't look right on you. So you react to that. You're not reacting to like Eloisa likes it. It's like, well, yeah, but I know I might like it, but they don't. And it's going to then react this equals bullying equals whatever. But so it's just interesting I'm hearing you. I don't think that the world teaches us that.
They certainly don't. And I had this conversation with someone the other day. Like we learn geometry, algebra, we learn physics, we learn all this different stuff in school. And they've got textbooks that have chapters and sections and all this stuff. But like no one ever really teaches you how to be you. Yeah, no one teaches you how to be a person. No one teaches you how to be in relationships. Yeah, no. These are all things that we assume you're going to pick up from like your parents or whatever. Well, what if they're not even good at it? What if they don't know? What if I don't have parents? Like no one teaches us this stuff. So then we have to piece it together. And most of the time when we do it, we're piecing it together in a really, excuse my French, like crappy way, like something that does not serve or fulfill. Because then we're just, oh, I'll just conform to this or I'll just do this. So I have been in a position in my life where I have always felt like the self that I brought to the table was never really good enough for people anyway. I was being judged for how I looked anyway, based on things I couldn't control. That's part of my story. So I was like, if they're going to judge me because of things that I can't control, I would rather just do what I want and be comfortable in my own skin because you're going to judge me anyway. So I'm going to be comfortable while I'm taking your shit.
Yeah. And basically judge me on who I am, not who you want me to be or think I am, right?
Yeah, either way. It's all about me. It's in that case, it's about me being comfortable. I would rather be comfortable because even if I conform and wear what you want, let's just talk about wearing stuff because that's easy. If I wear what you want, you're still going to be judging me. So I'd rather be comfortable while being judged than uncomfortable while being judged.
You know, it is interesting though, because I think about, you know, I know you've got 2 kiddos.
I've got 3.
You've got 3 kiddos. How old are they?
15, 12, and 6, my little girl.
Oh, okay. So 2 boys and a little girl.
Correct.
Oh, but you know, as I'm listening to you, the thing is though, is that as we continue to be, we're not taught that, but you know what we are taught is that it is punitive if you do listen to yourself. I mean, it is, you know, so it's like, so I wear what I want to wear. The reaction is bullying, or it's like, what are you wearing, Chris? Like, are you serious? You know? And it's like, no, you're not going to sit with us today. Like, I don't need you to look like that. So you're learning through punitive means, you know? So, I mean, the reward doesn't come until much later when we're older, when we have potentially money or we have whatever. And then that's when the reward, and it's like, oh my gosh, look, you're so authentic. Yo, I was trying to be authentic when I was 6, you know, but nobody wanted to be my friend. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think a lot about. It is incredibly romantic and it is incredibly true what you're thinking. We are also all past 40 years old.
True.
You know, we also are.
But you don't look like it.
Okay, well,
me and Andreas do.
But no, so the reason I'm saying this because as you're saying this, I'm thinking about my kids, right? So I have 4 boys. Like you, when we go to church, I'm like, just put on whatever you want to put on. Sometimes I regret that because I'm like, what in the actual, what are we wearing today? But at the same
you gave
time,
them that freedom.
But I gave them that freedom because I know what Chris is saying is at the end of the day, I can't be the other people that say, what are you doing? I'm not going to be that mom because they're going to get it somewhere else. But the thing is that that's really hard, Chris. You know, like, and I hear it, and I hear the confrontation, I hear the pain, right?
Yeah, it is hard. And on that topic, if we're going to use okay, what you're wearing and going to church discussion, there are ways for you to feel like you're on brand, but still have it be occasion specific in a way, right? So it's a situation if I go back to my mom, and if I were to be I really don't like these clothes, this rayon weird flowered shirt makes me feel uncomfortable, and I don't like this. So maybe if she would have been okay, fair enough. What do you want to wear? Yeah. Well, I don't like this color. I want to wear black. Awesome. So let's go shopping and let's figure out what are some clothes that you can wear to church that you're comfortable in, where you look sharp, but it feels like you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, a lot of what I've heard throughout our conversation so far as a principle of being a disruptor is alignment. You keep coming back to who are you, and then be able to answer that question. What do you want to wear that feels comfortable to you? Be in alignment between your internal feeling and your external appearance, right? Be in alignment with what it is that you want, what your purpose is, and then live there. And that the risk of being a disruptor lies, the power of the risk of being a disruptor lies in being able to be in alignment from here to out there, right? And it doesn't mean that's still not risky, but when you feel the resistance, now it's a resistance in alignment with what you have intended to do, as opposed to taking a risk that is in misalignment, and therefore when you take the hit, you're not centered. Yeah. And I've learned that in boxing with you, right? That so much about boxing, when I first started, was focusing on the arms, and because you're focusing on the swing, that's what you see.
Aren't you supposed to? I'm not a boxer. You keep your hands up all the time, right? No.
Well, there's
we're going to do a boxing.
There's a place where you start to teach someone, and when you start, you want to start by teaching people fundamentals, and that would definitely be to keep your hands up.
To keep your hands up.
But once you have enough experience, you can then bring artistry into that, and sometimes part of that physical chess match of setting traps will be to bring your hands down in a way to bait someone into doing something, and that's something that was done on purpose. So any professional fighters that you see that keep their hands down or break the rules are just really advanced physical chess players.
I was focused so much on the arms, and Chris kept saying, focus on your stance, where you're standing. Right, and so because I could do a swing, and it might even look like a good swing, but if I off center, then I am very vulnerable to getting a hit and falling over, right? And I think that's my correlation. It's you're going to set traps, for example, or you're going to do some good form with an uppercut, right? You still want to do it from being centered in your stance, which is from the part that you can't really see so much. Everybody's focusing on what's happening up here, but you got to focus on what's sort of your core. And so are you centered? And once you're centered, then you can do the dance, if you will, in the swinging or dropping the arms or the trap setting. And that's sort of, for me, the correlation to what you've been saying in general is whatever disruption you're going to do, be centered.
Absolutely.
And then you can take the swing or you can do the trap setting. But when you take the swing and you're off center and not in alignment, that's when the risk is too risky.
For sure, and you'll miss big or you'll get hit big because you're totally off center. So that's so true.
So Chris, you talked a lot about, before, so you've done all of these amazing things, you took risks, whatever you were kind of interested in the moment you tried it. You opened a gym, you failed, what are your future plans? Do you have future plans, or you just kind of, I think it's really interesting to listen to you because it seems like you really live in the moment, which I think is also really cool. So that's why I'm wondering, what are kind of your future thoughts about either work or fitness or art?
It's a really interesting question because I think that my only real superpower, for myself, honestly, I think is my ability to zoom out. I actually zoom out better than most people. And so I like to I tell people I like to play in the now, but dream in the future. Nice. Right? Yeah, so my play is hyper focused in the moment. like how I live.
Yeah.
But when I dream, when I go into like the self, I zoom out like so far. And so when you ask me about my future, I can give you so many layers of what that future looks like. If I look really far out, and I've seen this since I was a kid, like my future self, once I'm past this stage of life and I'm quote unquote retired, which I never really want to do. But like, I'm going to completely reinvent myself. I see myself being the non-English speaking version of myself, living somewhere else in a small, kind of old, lofty apartment with wide plank wood floors and large windows, something kind of close to the water. My bicycle's outside. I get my bread and my sausage every day. My easel's in the corner, and I speak zero English.
That's so
That sounds like
clear.
Italy,
I
right?
know. It does.
Yeah. And after years of assimilating into that culture, and I meet some young man and I talk to him while I'm picking up some baguette or something, and we talk, and he goes, "Wait a minute. You used to live in America?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that was a long time ago in another life."
So you're talking about self-disrupting now,
100%.
right? So you have disrupted a lot of people, helped them disrupt, but you're talking about even with all that you've done here to align yourself to who you are, you're ready and willing to say, well, I'm going to redo this, reset, deconstruct.
I romanticize the idea of letting go of this version of myself and embracing and building a new one where the people that engage with that one and know that one be like, oh, the Italian guy, Cristobal, whatever. The artist who lives over there. Oh, yeah. He's such an interesting guy. A bunch of tattoos. I don't know. Why? What do you want to know? They won't say fitness. They won't say anything. Like, oh, the guy who paints with the tattoos. Yeah, that's him. Like, that's who I'm going to be eventually.
So let me ask you a question. Okay, so we're presenting you, right? We got all the lights. We've got you, mic'd up and stuff. I can only imagine. Okay, like, is this you 110? Not authentic, but I feel like people like you, like Andres, like me, who have kind of this authenticity. We live in our brand. We know who we are. Even if somebody blows on a mountain, it's not going to move, right? But how do you keep this? I mean, how do you keep? There has to be some sort of. You can't keep this up 100. I mean, I know for me, I can't keep it up 100% of the time. So where do you go? How do you keep yourself like this?
Honestly, like it's not even something I need to keep up. You know what I mean? Like I have let go of the desire to make other people feel comfortable, like with me, if that makes any sense, right?
Does.
Like I'm so authentically, and Andreas can tell you, he see me in pretty much every
Different situation.
situation I can be in.
Right, I mean, City Hall, boxing ring, on the street being a cert, security, trained volunteer. I mean, father, I've seen him in many, but it's always Chris. Even though he's playing these different roles, at the core,
this
Chris
is him.
Falcon.
Yeah, this is it, and it's honestly, it's been a lifelong journey of just confrontation, pain, disappointment that has taken me to this moment in time where like I have really, really honed my personal brand. And once you do that, once you're aligned, like you say, and you're centered, when you're centered, you don't have to try. When you're centered, you don't. And I think back to what one of my mentors, Howard Falco, said, the author. He told me on my podcast, when passion is present, time does not exist. So not only do you not have to try when you're centered, but when you have really honed in on that, you actually are also existing outside of time. Wow. And so when you're talking about how do you have the time to do it or the energy to do it, or can you keep this up all the time? I am not bound to the limits of time or feeling like something is pressuring me to stop being this. I am passionate about this brand, so I can exist in this, what you see, eternally.
Yeah, but I still come back to the paradox here that having said what you said, and I'm right there with you, right? And it resonates. Yeah. You don't even have to think about it anymore. You're ready at some point in the, let's say, near or medium future to press the reset button and just reinvent and be another self.
Yeah.
Bring those together.
Yeah. Well, I think that I think that kind of like these devices that we have, right? Like the iPhone, when it comes out with a new version, it doesn't really let go of all the things we're kind of working.
That's what I was going to say.
Right?
Yeah, there's still a core.
There's still a core that they've built on, right? So I don't want to let go of who I am. And that's part of the reason why, like, I love telling my story with body art, because whenever I look at my body in the mirror and I see these are all just diary entries that I put on my body, I collect all those things on my body. This I'm not going to get rid of. So no matter where I go, I take these diary entries with me. I love my story, but at the same time, like I'm not my story, right? In a lot of ways, like these are things that have happened to me or I've experienced, but I am also something else. And that thing that I really am at my core is something that is so anomalous and so fluid that it can express itself however it chooses to express itself in different ways.
Different language, different location, right?
So even that Italian-speaking version of me, there's still, at that point, Cristobal, when you meet him, and
he still has the tattoos, right?
It's the tattoos. But when you contrast what he says and what he's doing, and you look at him, you'll be like, God, it's so different, but it's still it's still
resonant.
But
I think that's the key.
I agree.
That resonance is that core self.
Right.
Yeah.
So no matter what that core self puts on, right, or what that core self does to ourselves and to the people around us, there'll be a familiarity. Say that's who he or she or they are.
Yeah, like you can kind of think of it like genotype and phenotype, right? Like there's something that says, okay, like this is designed to create a nose, and then there are elements, phenotype that are determining what that nose is going to look like. Shape, what all that different stuff. So like at my core, there are things that are always just going to be me, but how I'm expressing myself.
Or what you're doing also.
Yes, and what I'm doing, which is a form of my expression, like is going to change. I didn't always be a painter. I didn't paint my first painting with actual paint till 2 years ago.
Wow.
I had dreamt about it, but I didn't do it. So like there's so many things that I do that are just like, wait, you paint now? Like people say all the time, like you're doing this now? Wait, why this? Why that? Blah, blah, blah.
That's the conditioning. That's the constant voices.
All of that stuff are just simply expressions for me. Yeah. I'm expressing different sides of what is inside. And what's inside is this anomalous, beautiful piece of stardust that can just do all these beautiful different things. And we all have that inside us.
So I want to come back to, our theme of fitness and art, and we've gone through a lot of different ways and really explored the self and the essence. But I just want to come back to your studio here a little bit, where you got the gym equipment, you got the art, right? You have the clients. Given all that we've talked about, what happens to the clients that you work with over time in that setting and with philosophy? Because when you train me, you train me on excellent boxing technique, but you're doing much more than that. You're training me on being really to be authentic. Like to be a good boxer is to be centered, and that's now open. And we end up having conversations about living a centered life, right? Even as I'm, embodying the boxing technique. And then I am inspired by the art, and it sort of lifts me up in a different way, and it inspires different kinds of conversations. Can you take us there? I mean, I know my story, right? But what have you seen happen to your clients in that space because of the uniqueness of the space that you've created? Yeah,
I think that, and this is something that actually is, believe it or not, very, a polarizing idea in my industry, but like personal training should be a very client-centric experience. Mm-hmm. Right? It should be about the client.
I would hope so.
And interestingly, a lot of times it seems to be about like the trainer. Like the trainer will talk about what they do, what they believe, and all this different stuff. And it becomes, well, I do this, or you're doing it too. And so it becomes a lot about them, and they'll spend a lot of times of that time talking about themselves. And so I recognize that this is a client-centric thing. This is about meeting this individual where they are. And so I felt like if I could create a space that is as authentically myself, since this is me being the personal trainer, like I want it to be as authentically me. It's going to make me feel really, really comfortable and at home. Therefore, making whoever chooses to be there, I like the feel of this place. This feels good to me. Feel at home as well. Yeah. So that I can hold space and meet them where they are at, because they now feel like they are in safe space. Yeah. When you're in safe space, you're more willing to be vulnerable. And really, that's what happens every single time you meet that moment of confrontation. That moment, that liminal space is vulnerable. It's this little moment in time where you're neither here nor there, where you're non-local. Yeah. And non-locality can be terrifying. Yeah. And so I needed to create safe space for people to come in so that I can meet them where they are and help them understand and take control over their agency, to choose to go or not go. And if you choose every single time in that moment that I'm not stepping over that line to go into that pain threshold, awesome, you made a choice today. You chose. You are now powerful. But you have to be comfortable in a place that allows you to be that vulnerable, where you don't feel attacked, where you don't feel like something's going to judge you or come down on you.
Yeah, and you can imagine how much confession comes out of that.
Oh, I'm sure. No,
right?
but
Because
I get it all.
He gets it all, right? I mean, he gets it all for me, right? Like all my different spaces, in that moment of vulnerability, in the moment of confrontation, in that moment of understanding the technique and how it relates to the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Confession just emerges. It's almost like a confessional.
I was
we
gonna
should add that.
say.
It's
should have
fitness
put that in the
center,
thing.
art center, and confessional,
confessional.
right? Because like, what the F happened here? But
Yeah.
I let it out.
No, but I think that that's really important because it isn't. I myself have had personal trainers who for any of you listening, who are my personal trainers, I've had both. Where it's like you said, they've gone. I don't like high intensity stuff, for example, and so I do better with like the Pilates and the bar and stuff like that. But I've had high intensity trainers who have pushed me, and I'm like, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to my body. You're not listening to the way that my body responds, to these kinds of things. But I've gone with it because I'm competitive and I like, pushing. But in that moment, though, Chris, and you're right. So I'm like, so I don't feel safe here. And even if I can push, just because physically I can do it, I don't know how to fail in front of you. I don't know how to win in front of you because the judgment is now yours, not mine.
Yes.
But then I've also had these trainers, like you said, to be like, okay, where are you going? What do you want to do? We're responding, your body, your mentally and everything. And those are, like you said, the trainers that actually not only mentally and emotionally have I gone forward and confessed, some stuff to them, but I think that even my body has responded better. My muscles feel better. My back feels better. My, everything feels better. And then you come back because, like you said, I have felt safer to fail, not even to win, but to fail. So I think that that's actually really interesting. Maybe failure is not the right word.
No, but we can use that word, and it's a wonderful word. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think that when it comes to, and this is something I really, really believe, when it comes to connecting with people or the moment, when it comes to connecting, I personally believe that perspective is poison. I think perspective is poison. And if that is true, if perspective is poison, then understanding is the cure. And so let's unpack that for a second. Like, if all I do is bring to my one-on-one session with you is just simply my perspective all the time, well, first and foremost, I'm not going to be able to see you. Everything you say is going to go through my filter, and now it's going to be like, well, this is what I'm hearing you say, and through my filter. Right. So what you need to do in that moment as a trainer is I need to take perspective and put it aside for a moment and focus on understanding. I need to understand where you are. I need to hear you, see you. How did you walk in today? How was your posture? Put perspective and all my stuff aside for a moment and focus on understanding. So is what you're saying this? No, that's not what I'm saying. Tell me what you're actually saying. Every single session I have with my clients, I say, how was your body today?
You do.
Every single time.
Before you start.
I want to know. I need to understand where you are in this moment in time. And I don't care what happened last time because this is a totally different point.
Yeah.
So
it just to bug me. Like, how many always ask me every time?
Yeah.
But I saw the wisdom of it very quickly.
Yeah.
So for me, I put my perspective aside. I focus on trying to understand people and situations. Then later, when it's not a moment of trying to connect, because that's all those hours are, is I'm connecting with you. Later on, then I can augment my perspective based on what I've heard and now figure out where that fits in my lens. But if you want to actually connect with someone or a moment, put aside your perspective and just feel and listen and understand what's happening.
Yeah. I know that we're kind of coming to our close, and one thing that I think a lot about, just being in your presence and thinking about you as all of the things, poetry, and we didn't talk about that, but all of the things that you've talked about. I could imagine, Chris, that people would meet you and feel intimidated. And interesting, and let me just go somewhere. Not because of the color of your skin, not because of everything that is this, but because of actually the authenticity that you bring. I think that people are so intimidated by what is the aura? Why are you so into yourself? What is happening? But I think what I like actually about even having, I've only met what was like an hour ago. What I actually like about what you're doing is that it's not, you can take it as intimidation, but what I find, Chris, is you're inviting people. By being authentic, you're inviting people to come, maybe not to, but to be authentic themselves, right? To disrupt themselves, to have a conversation with me, because I'm not going to try. I like that question. What did you say? How is your body today? Was that the question? That's what you ask people?
Yeah.
How's your body then?
I feel like if you were my trainer, I feel like the first couple times I'd be like, fine. I'm happy. I don't know.
But he's looking for specificity.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And I want to, because I really want you to pack in react to what she said, but I want to piggyback on it. Because as we wrap up here, we've been talking about the fitness part, which is the disrupting fitness, but one of the ways you disrupt it is by making it about alignment and about personhood and authenticity, but also you disrupt it by bringing in art. And I want you to come back to the art part. As the artist that you are, now look at this conversation now through the lens of art, right? What is it about you as an artist and surrounding the fitness space with art? How does that speak into all the topics that we've talked about today?
Great question.
Yeah, to me, I think about, I go back to Rick Rubin's book where he talks about there is no bad art and it's all just diary entries. And so,
that's cool.
So you can't look at your diary. If you have a diary and we open it up, you can't be like, well, that was a horrible entry or this isn't good. Yeah. No, this is your diary. It's what you experienced. It's how you saw it. There is no such thing as a bad diary entry. And every single piece of art that's ever created is you just capturing whatever was coming out of you in that moment. It's just an entry. So I love that space because to me, coming from a world where I was judged and where so many things, I just didn't feel like I fit, to think that I can enter a world where there's literally no such thing as anything that's bad, anything, right? Yeah. Where everything you create is just simply what it is in that moment, and that's it. Yeah. Neither good nor bad, it's just what it is. It's so beautiful to me. So to fill my gym with art, with something that captured a single moment in time. What you're looking at are brushstrokes, but what you're seeing are diary entries. Every stroke was someone's diary entry. And you're surrounded by that, and that's vulnerability. That all creates this space that fosters transformation, fosters you to ask deeper questions of yourself. So everything about that place is artistic. And when it comes to the art, that was very, very deliberate. And people questioned me on it. They were like, why are you doing that? Why? I go, because I want to.
Yeah.
And let's be clear. First of all, he rotates the art.
Oh, okay.
And it's a gallery. So some of the art is fixed, right? Like the mural. But others, he actually uses a gallery space that really either well-known or up-and-coming artists come, and there is price tags on the stuff. So as you're working out, you're spending a few $100 or $1,000 in your head as well. But that's part of it. You're having this disruptive experience of I've walked into a workout and at the same time walked into a gallery that's either inspiring me or is make me want to take something home.
Wow.
And he's rotating it, right? So it's a very fluid thing.
So it's not a stagnant space.
So Chris, what a great conversation we have with you. And now you get a flavor of what I get once a week.
I know.
Saturday at noon Central Time. I'm right there with him.
I'm showing up.
Chris, how do people find you?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Well, you can find me on my website for my gym, which is reactivepec.com. So that's my fitness space. But I'd probably say the easiest way to link to everything that I do is to check me out at chrisfalcon.com. Really easy. There's links to everything from my children's stories to my artwork to my gym. Everything kind of happens.
Is your poetry on there?
I don't have any of my poetry on there, but I've got some of my songs and like Piano Worker on Spotify. So if you find me on Chris,
did you say piano? We didn't say
we didn't even
piano
talk about
earlier.
that. They have you back for that.
What?
It's horrible stuff. But
it's a diary entry.
It is a diary entry. I'm fearless when it comes to that. So yes, you can find some of my stuff there as well.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah. This was amazing, Chris. I mean, I'm so inspired. I am so intimidated. I am so inspired because as I mentioned earlier, and that's what I was saying earlier, I can imagine that people would be intimidated by everything that you are, but not necessarily the physicality, but really like just the what I would call like the vibration.
Yeah.
There is this vibration off of you that I think that some people who aren't ready for it are like, I don't like it. I don't know what this is, but I wouldn't.
But disruptors do that.
Disruptors do that.
If you're not feeling uncomfortable,
it's not working.
It's not working. You're not being
that's
disrupted.
right.
By nature, a disruptor changes the frequency and makes it a little dissonant.
And when people vibrate like that, there is in the world a draw actually to it, because at the space of certain vibration, you're drawn to it. And I'm so this was amazing, Chris. Like, thank you for sharing this.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm on a tattoo journey, so I'm really kind of like, what? I'm like,
oh, you got to see my legs loaded up there.
That's awesome. But no, and I know that we're going to try to get to your gym and be there and buy some art, and support the community.
But it's an interesting thing that you're talking about, like with the whole intimidation factor, because my wife talks about that all the time. Because
she does.
Yeah, well, because what'll happen is, like, because of what you just described, like this kind of like intimidation, and they're not quite sure. Sometimes what happens in people is they'll try to bring me down. They'll try to destroy or discredit. If I say I want to do something or I'm doing something, they'll try to come up with every negative thing they could possibly say about what I'm doing, and so that's part of their way of just reacting to something that they're unsure of.
And placing
you
really in a space that they understand.
Correct. They want to put it somewhere that they can understand, because otherwise, if they let it just be, it's like they don't know. Are you a trainer or are you not a trainer? Are you this or are you not that? What's going on?
What box can I put you in?
What box can I put you on? I can't stand that I can't put this person in a box. Yeah. And that is so unsettling. And to your point, that is the disruption in itself.
Exactly. So as we wrapped up, usually when we have a guest, Eloisa and I just have some final reflections on what we real time learned here. So Eloisa, what are your takeaways after this wonderful conversation with Chris?
Yeah. No, I'm my takeaway is actually just I very rarely actually get intimidated by people. I myself am very secure in who I am. I've been this way for a long time, but I am super duper intimidated, but because of that, I'm inspired. Because in all frankness, like, you and I are still going through journeys. I'm going through a journey, right? I left corporate a little bit ago. And so as a result of that, I'm still trying to figure out, like, where should I be? Where should I go? Because I react a lot of times to what other people are going to think or say, because that's how I've made money in the past, So
in a sense, his story is confronting a little bit of that.
It is.
Yeah. Great
point. And so I find myself like sitting at the bar, where like they're like lower. I'm like, I can't like, and I'm really inspired to go lower and to stay there and to push, right? So like that's my takeaway, is like, I love that part of confrontation. And I'm actually doing a workout tonight, and I'm gonna take that. And because the lactic acid is real, man. The lactic acid is real, so real. But it's so good. So I that's what my takeaway is. Confrontation is okay. Fitness is confrontation. I've never heard that before, and intimidation is okay. You should just go. It's all right? If you have a strain, so be it. That's the choice that you made. I love it.
Yeah. So my takeaways is, since our podcast is about disruption, and we want to feature disruptors in in work, life, society, relationships, and this is really more of a lifestyle conversation, but it spills over into every other area. Several takeaways about the qualities of a disruptor, and disruptors can be in any industry, come in all shapes and sizes, but there's some core things that came up, right? And I'm struck by the fact that disruptors need to, before they take things off center, they have to start by being centered. Only once you're centered can you then disrupt and move things off center, because these things need to change. So that was one takeaway about a disruptor. The other one is that disruption is always about a risk, and it's a risk that may or may not pay off, but that if you're not centered, then the risk is not likely going to be worth it. But if you're centered, it doesn't matter what risk you take, because it's in alignment with who you are, right? Yeah. And that disruptors can disrupt within their own field. But one of the ways to disrupt within their own field is to integrate other fields. And the fact that you have integrated, fitness and art in ways that usually those things don't go together. Yeah. But you've made it harmonious and in alignment and created a new space.
I love that.
Physically a new space, but then inspires inner new space.
You know, one thing, and I want to add one more thing. For the viewers out there that watch us, because you and I tend to draw people who are from corporate, that kind of thing. But one of the things that Andres and I also try to do is talk about this holistically, that disruption is in all parts of our lives. I'm a single mom raising 4 boys, and I try to teach them a lot about brand, being comfortable in who they are, but at the same time, they have to answer to a lot of different things that I don't have to answer to anymore. I want to acknowledge that for them, 17-year-old twins and 12-year-old twins. And they are all going through a push and pull, right? Of like, but mom, because I tell them, I want you to be who you are. I want you to wear whatever you want to wear to church. But they are confronted a lot of times with like, yeah, but my friend, somebody said that my girlfriend said no, my friend said no, or like I get looked at differently. And I love, Chris, that for you as a dad, but also for you as just the brand piece, that it's okay that your brand can grow. And you didn't talk about assimilation, you never used that word, but it's that in certain contexts, you can stay at your core. I'm going to say that to my boys. We can pick a core. You know who you are. But that in certain contexts, it's okay because you have to, maybe in church, you can wear all black. You can show the tattoo. You can wear, but maybe let's think about a different hat, if you want to do the hat, right? Or if you don't want to wear the itchy, whatever, let's think about that. Because I think that creates success in the journey, right? And in different spaces. Again, for me, raising 4 boys who are half Filipino and half white, as a single mom, that gives me space, right? So I appreciate that as a mom. And I want to make sure that our viewers, because that's more than just the corporate stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Chris, thanks again for being here and
Thank you
inspiring
guys
all
for
of us.
having me. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Let's do it again sometime.
I would love that.
We would love it, yes.
Yeah, we'd love that. All right.
Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Disrupt the Podcast with Andres Tapia.
And Eloisa Domingo. Make sure to check us out on all of the links below. My website, Andres' website, the Disrupt podcast website. There's a whole bunch of worksheets and downloadables and things like that you can check out and talk to us and contact us for more conversation, not just about Chris, but about disruption in general.
All right. We're on a roll.
We are on a roll.
That's right. Okay.
Adios.
See you later. Ciao. As always, once we sort of say cut and we're done with the episode, we're on a roll. We keep talking and we keep rolling. So, we always have an uncut, uncensored, behind the scenes segment that is available for who?
For everyone. And so you can hit the link, join as a member on YouTube, or there is a hyperlink to join on Patreon. And I'm telling you, if you like the episode, you're actually going to like this better probably. This is like amazing conversation and you don't want to miss what this guy said off camera.